Disclaimer: this story is for entertainment purposes only. All characters and events depicted are fictional, and any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Viewer discretion is advised. I don't know exactly when things started to go wrong between me and my dad, but I know the moment everything shattered. And trust me, it didn't happen like in the movies, with yelling and doors slamming and dramatic music in the background. No, it crept in slowly, like a fog. One decision here, one lie there. And before I realized it, I had crossed a line I could never take back. It wasn't always like this. Growing up, my dad was the kind of person you couldn't help but admire. He was charming, strong, and always seemed like he had everything under control. People respected him. I did too. But underneath all of that calm, there was distance. He wasn't the kind of dad you could just talk to about anything. There were walls. Not the kind you could see, but the kind you feel every time you want to say something but bite your tongue instead. I guess that's why, when I started noticing little things, I didn't say anything. Like the way he stayed late at work more often than usual. Or how his phone was always face down. Or how he flinched slightly when Mom would ask him harmless questions. I noticed, but I stayed silent. Maybe part of me didn't want to know the truth. Or maybe part of me already did. Then came her. At first, she was just his friend from the gym. That's what he called her. She was younger, loud, and always laughing just a little too much at his jokes. My dad seemed different around her. Lighter. Like someone had hit pause on all the responsibilities of his life. I watched from a distance, not really sure what I was watching. But I felt something shift inside me. Something I couldn't explain. One night, I overheard them on the phone. He didn't know I was standing outside his study, barely breathing. I couldn't make out everything, but I heard enough. The way he said her name. The way his voice softened. And then, "I miss you too." My heart sank, but I didn't cry. Not right away. I just stood there, frozen, as the truth wrapped around me like cold steel. I wanted to tell my mom. I wanted to scream, to expose him, to force him to face what he was doing. But instead, I made the worst decision of my life. I confronted him. Not like a child confronts a parent, but like two strangers who know too much about each other. I told him I knew. And instead of denying it, he just stared at me. No shock. No panic. Just silence. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between us. A crack that had always been there finally split wide open. But the worst part wasn't just that he cheated. It was what came after. That moment opened up something in me I didn't even know existed. Anger, confusion, pain, all tangled up. And somewhere in all of that chaos, I did something I can never undo. I crossed a line. Not out of revenge. Not even out of hate. I just lost myself. One decision, one night, and everything I thought I understood about right and wrong disappeared. My actions didn't just betray him. They shattered the fragile balance of our already broken family. I know what you're probably thinking. How could I? Why would I? But the truth is, when you're drowning in betrayal and secrets, sometimes you make choices that don't make sense. Sometimes you become the very thing you swore you'd never be. What I did next changed everything. It turned our house into a war zone. My mother? She had no idea what was coming. And my dad, well, he wasn't ready to face the fallout either. But none of us could stop it now. It was like pressing a button and watching the whole world catch fire. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep you bury it. And when it finally did, everything got out of control. But that part? That's just the beginning. It started weeks before that night blew everything apart. I had just come back home after dropping out of college. No one knew the real reason, not even my mom. I told them it was about money, or stress, or needing a break. But honestly, I just felt lost. I didn't know who I was, or what I was supposed to be doing. Being back home felt safe, until it didn't. My mom welcomed me with open arms, just happy to have me around again. She had this warmth that could light up any room, always putting others before herself. She believed in my dad, trusted him blindly. And watching her laugh with him at dinner, or brush her hand across his shoulder as she walked by, made my chest ache. Because I knew what he was hiding from her. I kept hoping I was wrong. That maybe I misread the signs. But then I saw them. My dad and the woman, her name was Tanya, together at a gas station on the edge of town. They weren't doing anything crazy, just laughing. But the way he looked at her like nothing else existed said it all. I watched from my car, fists clenched around the steering wheel. That's when something inside me started to shift. At home, things were already tense. My dad and I had never been close, but now our conversations felt like quiet battles. Every word was loaded. Every glance lasted a little too long. He knew I was watching him. And I think, deep down, he was daring me to say something. One night, I asked him directly, "Is there something going on with you and Tanya?" I expected a lie or maybe even a blow-up. But he just stared at me. His jaw clenched, and he walked away. That silence? It said more than any words could. It was his version of an admission. That was the moment I realized he didn't even feel guilty. The worst part? I started to understand him. Not agree with him, but understand. He was tired of the routine, of being the dependable husband and father. Tanya made him feel alive. And I hated myself for even thinking that. Because while he was out chasing something new, my mom was folding his laundry and saving old photos and scrapbooks. I felt like I was carrying this secret alone. I couldn't tell my mom. I couldn't talk to anyone else about it either. So I just held it in. But the anger didn't stay quiet. It started bleeding into everything I did. I became sharp, cold, reckless. I stopped caring about anything. That's when I met Leo. He was someone I had known casually from a couple years back. A friend of a friend. He worked at a small bar downtown, and I started going there just to escape the silence at home. Leo was easy to talk to. He asked questions no one else did. And I found myself opening up in ways I never expected. One night I told him everything. About my dad. The cheating. The lies. How I hated him for hurting my mom, and how much I hated myself for doing nothing. Leo listened. He didn't judge. He just sat with it. And maybe that's why I let myself get close to him. Too close. What happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't something I'm proud of. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking straight. I was angry and broken and just wanted to feel something that wasn't shame or guilt. I didn't realize that my actions would only dig the hole deeper. I didn't know that Leo had a connection to my dad. I didn't know that what I thought was a mistake would turn into a weapon. Because secrets don't stay buried. Especially not in families like mine. And the truth? The truth always finds a way to come back up. I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. But the real storm? It hadn't even started yet. I started avoiding my dad after that night with Leo. Not because of guilt, at least not entirely, but because everything had changed. I couldn't look him in the eye without feeling like I had turned into some twisted version of him. The silence between us, which had always existed in small moments, now felt permanent. Heavy. And somehow he sensed something was off. He watched me more closely, as if he knew I was hiding something too. But we never said anything. Just carried on like we were playing some sick game of who could fake it better. Meanwhile, Leo started texting me more. At first, I replied out of politeness. Then curiosity. And eventually, habit. He became my escape from the mess at home. But I was starting to realize that even he had layers I didn't fully understand. One night, while we sat outside his apartment, he casually mentioned my dad. "You know, I used to see him here sometimes," he said. "With that woman. Tanya, right?" I froze. I hadn't told him her name. I never mentioned it out loud. That's when it hit me Leo knew more than he was letting on. Maybe he had seen my dad and Tanya before I even brought it up. Maybe that's why he had gotten close to me so quickly. I didn't know if I was being paranoid or if I had just been incredibly naive. But suddenly, everything started to feel like it was spinning out of control. Back at home, my mom began noticing the tension. She'd ask little questions like, "Everything okay with you and your dad?" Or, "You seem a little distant lately." I wanted so badly to scream the truth at her, to tell her that the man she trusted was not who she thought he was. But every time I looked at her, I saw someone who deserved peace, not this chaos. So I kept lying. And that lie started eating away at me. Then there was Tanya. She started showing up more often, casually, like she was just another friend. Sometimes she'd drop something off, or swing by for a quick chat. But I knew what she was doing. She was testing the waters, seeing how far she could go before someone said something. The way she smiled at me, like she wasn't slowly destroying everything, made my blood boil. But I smiled back. I played nice, because I still didn't know what I was supposed to do. I wasn't the only one acting strange. My dad had gotten jumpy. He started locking his phone, closing his laptop whenever someone walked in. He'd disappear for hours and come back with that same forced calm. I could feel the guilt building under his skin, but he'd never admit it. He still wanted to be the man in control, the one who kept everything in place, even as it crumbled around him. And then came the real twist. One night, while scrolling through Leo's social media, something I hadn't done before, I found a photo buried in his old posts. It was from months ago. Him, smiling, standing next to Tanya, arms around each other. The caption was vague, something like "summer nights," but the message was clear. They knew each other. Well, that was when I knew this wasn't just a mistake anymore. This wasn't just about infidelity or secrets. This was something deeper, more dangerous. I had stepped into something far more tangled than I realized. And the worst part? I wasn't sure who was lying to who anymore, or who I could even trust. I stared at that photo of Leo and Tanya for a long time, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. Questions raced through my mind, none of them with clear answers. Had Leo known who I was from the beginning? Was I just a piece in some sick plan between him and Tanya? Or was it all just coincidence? One giant, cruel coincidence? I didn't know what to believe anymore. The ground under me felt like it was cracking, and I couldn't tell who was pulling the strings. At dinner that night, I couldn't even look at my dad. My mom was talking about her day, completely unaware of the ticking bomb at our table. My dad kept glancing at me, like he could sense that something was coming. And something was. I could feel it building inside me. All the secrets, all the betrayal. It was like a storm pressing against the walls of the house, just waiting to explode. I wanted to confront Leo, demand answers, but I didn't know how far this web stretched. If I said the wrong thing to the wrong person, it could all come crashing down, not just on me, but on my mom too. And she didn't deserve that. She was still trying to hold on to this perfect picture of our family, even while it was burning behind her back. Then one night, Leo showed up at my door unannounced. My dad was out and my mom was upstairs asleep. He looked nervous, restless. He asked if we could talk. I almost slammed the door in his face, but something in his eyes stopped me. He knew something. Something big. The way he said, "It's not what you think," made my skin crawl. Because that's exactly what people say before everything unravels. I let him in, heart pounding, hands shaking. What he told me next changed everything. But it wasn't just his words, it was the sound of my dad's car pulling into the driveway. He was home. Too early. Too fast. And the three of us were about to collide in one room, with all the secrets out in the open. The sound of my dad's car door slamming echoed through the house like a warning shot. Leo froze. I could see panic flicker in his eyes, but it wasn't just fear, it was hesitation, like he was weighing whether to run or stay. I grabbed his arm and whispered, "You can't be here." But it was too late. My dad's footsteps were already on the porch, keys jingling, moving closer with each breath I took. The door opened and for a second, everything stopped. My dad stood there, his eyes shifting from me to Leo. He didn't say anything, but I watched his whole face change, like recognition hit him before I could explain a thing. And then, without warning, he laughed. A cold, short laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Of course, he said, shaking his head like something finally made sense. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. I turned to Leo, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when my dad said something that knocked the air out of my lungs. He's not just her friend, he said. He's her son. I blinked, trying to process it. Tanya's son? I asked, almost choking on the words. Leo nodded slowly, finally looking at me, but his expression was nothing like before. He wasn't just the guy I had turned to for comfort, he was part of her. Part of them. Everything I thought I knew fell apart in seconds. Leo had known exactly who I was the entire time. This wasn't coincidence. It was something darker. More calculated. I felt the walls closing in as my dad stepped further into the room, his voice low and tense. You think this was just about me? You've been played just like the rest of us. And in that moment, I realized the betrayal ran deeper than I ever imagined. I couldn't speak. My brain was still trying to catch up with the truth that Leo wasn't just a stranger I confided in, but Tanya's son. The same Tanya who had destroyed my family. And now, standing in the middle of my living room with my dad on one side and Leo on the other, I felt like the walls were finally crashing in. I didn't plan for this, Leo said quietly. At first, it was just curiosity. My mom always talked about your dad, about how he left us behind like we were nothing. I just wanted to see the family he chose over us. His eyes locked on mine. But then I met you, and it got complicated. My dad stepped forward, fury in his voice. You used my daughter to get back at me? No, Leo said. I swear it wasn't like that. Not after I got to know her. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. I had crossed the line with someone tied to my father's betrayal. And the worst part? We had both done it unknowingly, dragged into a history that had been kept from us. That night, I told my mom everything. Every secret. Every lie. She didn't cry. She just sat there in silence, the weight of years hitting her all at once. But here's the twist. A week later, after everything had calmed down, I got a letter in the mail. No name. Just handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a photo, an old one. My mom and Tanya, standing together, smiling like best friends. On the back, a single line, it didn't start with your dad. That's when I realized the real story hadn't even started yet. The photo changed everything. My mom and Tanya, together, long before any of this started. I showed it to her, and for the first time, she broke. She told me the truth. She and Tanya were best friends once, inseparable in their 20s. But something happened. My dad had dated Tanya before he met my mom. It ended badly, and when he and my mom got together, Tanya never really let it go. Over the years, she slowly found her way back into our lives, under the radar, carrying bitterness wrapped in smiles. My mom had tried to bury that past, hoping it would never surface. But it did louder than anyone could have expected. Leo wasn't part of some revenge plot. Not entirely. He was dragged into the same pain, the same mess, just from a different side. After everything came out, we stopped talking. There was too much between us that couldn't be untangled. And maybe we were just trying to fix damage that wasn't ours to begin with. My dad moved out a few weeks later. No drama, just quiet boxes and even quieter goodbyes. My mom, surprisingly, didn't fall apart. She started rebuilding, little by little. Stronger this time, without secrets hanging over her. And me? I'm still learning how to trust again. How to live without carrying everyone's lies on my back. If there's one thing I've taken from all this, it's that infidelity doesn't just break hearts, it breaks identities, families, truths. But even in the ruins, there's room to grow. Just not without pain, and not without letting go, too.